But it's coming through loud and clear, which is good. Hey, it's Peter Schmitz, and I'm the author of One Inspires Many, Be the One. And I'm here with my friend James Gilliard today, and we are actually at the Dare to Try 3-day triathlon training camp. So we have 2 days of training, and then we have a race on Sunday morning. And James has been here before. It's my first time, but we're here to share James's story. So I'm just going to ask him real briefly, James, what's your situation?
So I was born with retinitis pigmentosa. It's a degenerative eye disease that essentially eats away at the retina. I've had poor vision my entire life. At about 15, 16 was the point where it really started to affect my ability to do things on a daily basis, and has been slowly decreasing since that point. I was told by doctors at 17 I'd be completely blind by 30. Well, I've lost some sight since that point. I still have a decent amount at 36.
And when you race now, so you've been basically known you're going blind since your teenage years. So kind of tell us what that was like, to actually know that you're going to be blind. Now you're not, I understand that, but at that point in your life you thought you were going to be. How's that like as a teenager boy?
Well, I mean, I can't and won't say that it's the same thing as being told by a doctor at any age you have cancer and you've got 6 months to live or whatever it's like. But that's the only analogy that I can draw anything to. I mean, essentially, it was that same sort of conversation. You've got X amount of time, get your affairs in order. I mean, that's probably hard at any age, especially hard as a teenager. And I mean, it took me at least 4 or 5 years to get that all straight in my head and get back to a point of, this is what I'm going to be doing. I mean, there were several years of just being a hermit would be a too kind of a word for it.
Wow.
Because I mean, I wanted to make sure that I could get things done, like get through college before it got even worse, or I mean, before I lost it completely.
And you were able to do that, obviously.
I was,
you were able to get
yes.
through college with your vision intact.
Yes.
But today, what percent of vision do you typically have? Because you were telling me earlier, if it's light out, you can see okay, but when it's dark, it's not so easy.
So when it's light out, I probably have about 60 to 70% of my vision that I did at the beginning. At night or in a dark area, it's very poor. I mean, if there aren't any lights, or for example, as we were walking back from dinner tonight, I mean, literally the only thing that I could see were car headlights and the neon of different places around.
So now, how in the world, tell us how you got involved with this racing business, because you were telling me earlier it's pretty recent that you got involved in racing, and then triathlons.
Sure. So I went to Rutgers. That was where I graduated from. About 3 years ago, they joined the Big Ten, and I know they have been doing a Big Ten related 5K and 10K in Chicago prior to that. When Rutgers joined or was about to join the Big Ten, I got an email about it as an alumni and decided, okay, that looks fun. Let's go ahead and do that. And I did, with a couple of friends as guides. The following fall, I did my second 5K, which was the Naperville Turkey Trot. And at that point, one of my guides ended up getting hurt 2 or 3 weeks prior. They broke their ankle or something along those lines, and I got hooked up with Terry Hayes, who has become not only a very good friend, but a coach, a guide, someone to keep me moving forward. And I mean, it sort of just snowballed from that point of, okay, we've done this 5K, what else? And I don't remember how or when, but I must have seen some footage of the Chicago Triathlon. I said, okay, that looks like fun. And that was how all this started. The following spring, I happened to run into Carrie since she was the Athletes with Disabilities coordinator for the Shamrock Shuffle. She introduced me to Dare to Try, and I've been connected with them and with doing triathlon since.
And you did your first triathlon in Naperville.
No, I did my first triathlon here last year.
Oh, so exactly 1 year ago.
I think camp was a couple weeks prior.
Yeah.
So, yeah, about a little over a year ago was my first triathlon here.
And then you went on to do
Naperville
with Terry.
With Terry, yes.
So, and you were doing this with a guide because you're not
right
comfortable enough to ride a bike by yourself.
Well, it wouldn't be a good idea. I mean, and that's mostly due to just reaction times because of vision. I probably wouldn't be able to see someone changing lanes or swerving or curve until it was too late if I was just out on a bike by myself. I mean, and there are also challenges in the water just because of depth perception, and I mean, it would not be possible to do any of this, whether it's running just a normal race, doing a triathlon, any of that without guides.
Okay, so help us understand, what does a guide do with you during the race? And start with swimming.
So first they help to set up the transition area. We are always on a tandem bike, so just getting everything set up for both of us. Swim starts, we're tethered and swimming together.
Now, what does that mean to be tethered? Explain that just briefly.
So the swimming tether goes around the waist of each of us, and it's a bungee cord or something similar to that type of material.
Okay.
And then.
So they're actually guiding you through the water.
Guiding me through the
so you
water.
don't get too off to the side or something.
Right. Or
you still swim entirely by yourself.
Yes. Yeah, I still swim by myself. They're guiding me. They're making sure that I don't run into obstacles and stay on course.
Okay, so that's the swim.
That's the swim.
So then you come out and you go through transition.
Right.
And then you ride a tandem bike. So they're obviously driving and you're in the back.
Yep, that's correct. And so once that's done, we come back and we'll go out together on the run. Depends on what the course is like. I mean, sometimes it's with a running tether around the wrists. Sometimes it's not. I mean, since the courses are usually in decent light.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really need that, but every once in a while
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I've been next to blind people racing, and it's amazing to me the communication that goes on, because your guide is essentially your eyes, so they're telling you, watch, there's a bump at 3 o'clock or however you choose to communicate, but they're constantly telling the racer, right?
Yes.
What to watch out for. There's a racer here, there's a racer there, we're going to turn here, there's a hole in the ground, whatever. It's amazing to me. It's incredible amount of trust.
Well, and that's
guide.
The biggest thing is that, I mean, with any guide, you're putting your life in their hand. And I mean, that's something that I'm fine with. I mean, I trust anyone who's a guide with or for me. But you're right, it is a tremendous amount of trust, because I mean, you can't see much of it.
Right, and if they aren't talking to you, and you step in a hole, you're going to trip and fall, twist your ankle, whatever. And it's amazing. I mean, I heard it today in camp. This is the first time I've seen this. You guys are getting off a tandem, and they go 1, 2, 3, unclip.
Yeah.
Whatever, 3, 4, put your foot down. Because if you don't put your feet down at the same time, you're going to tip over.
Throw the balance out.
And it's quite remarkable to watch two people operate in tandem. Or crash. I mean, that's why we're at camp, right? To learn those skills. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And so you're doing how many triathlons this year?
So by the end of the year, I'll have done a total of 12. 6 were indoor during the winter months, and then there will be 6 more outdoor.
Yeah, the indoor ones are a little different because you're on a stationary bike or something.
Right. Yeah. So the indoor ones, you're in a pool for 10 minutes, and then you've got transition in the locker room, and then you're on a stationary bike for different amounts of time, and then you're running either on a treadmill or an indoor track.
So that you can pretty much do on your own?
No, I mean, they're still with the swim. It helps to have a guide.
Okay.
I I mean, I did all those with a guide.
Okay, I didn't know that. I went, okay. So,
Yeah, just to make sure that everything, I mean, it's more about safety even with the indoor ones.
Okay. And I know you're doing 6 outdoor ones
Right.
this year, because we're going to be at some of the same ones. So,
Yep.
so what does James get out of doing a triathlon? What does it feel like to?
Well, I mean, it feels incredible to do, to know that I'm able to be out there with the help of guides. I mean, for example, when I did ITU last year, there were at least 20 or 30,000 athletes there. I mean, to be able to be out there and to be doing it, and not just to be sitting at home on the sidelines because I couldn't see well, or I couldn't see well enough to do it on my own, was just a great feeling. I mean, to know that there's always a way to work around limitations.
Yeah. Yeah, you've definitely overcome that. And tell me, you told me a little story about somebody that said something to you at that event.
Absolutely. So I think it was as we were walking back, or as we were waiting to meet up with people that we were at, we were running the run portion of it in vests. I mean, mine says visually impaired athlete, the guide says guide, and someone took a picture of it and said something along the lines of, "That's really great. I wish this person was out here doing it." I mean, along the lines of, meaning that I know people that are just sitting at home feeling sorry for themselves because they can't do it. You're out here proving that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And then you were telling me another story about being able to participate, and you came out and saw other blind people doing that, and that
Right.
spurred you on. Tell me that story.
So when I was at camp last year, just being able to see other people, other athletes who have far less sight than I do, being able to do everything. I mean, not just to spur me on to do what I've done since then, but also to feel a little bit better, because there's always been the uncertain question of, if and when I lose my sight, how do I continue to do things? How does all that function, or how does all that keep moving forward? And I mean, being able to see them last year, being able to see people that had no sight still out there doing everything, not just as part of the activities, but also then the social aspect of it as well. The dinners, the other events that were part of camp, made that a little bit easier of, okay, I see what some of the options are. I see where some of these different paths go. Okay, well, when it gets to that point, I know what some of the options are.
Yeah, and your roommate here is
Alberto, and he's completely blind. And at many times, it is truly the blind leading the blind.
I was just going to say, they come down for dinner, and Alberto says, yeah, it's like the blind leading the blind, because neither one of them had a guide at that point. They're making their way through the hotel to the front lobby. Now, maybe you can see a little bit, but it's just funny as heck. So this is what goes on at camp and with the Dare to Try, because we're all athletes with disabilities, and we can tease each other where other people might not feel, well, probably shouldn't tease us, because we're all in the same boat, camp, so to speak, and it's great fun to tease each other. We all do that. But that's a great story, the blind leading the blind. Yeah. So if you were to try to tell somebody, facing a situation like yours, what would you tell them? I mean, obviously they don't need to do a triathlon, but
to step back from it first, because when you're right in it, like I was 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, it's overwhelming. You're faced with whatever the news is. I've lost a limb. I'm going to go blind. I'm about to lose one. I'm going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. Whatever it is, to just step back from it and say, okay, well, yes, that sucks, but it doesn't mean it's the end of everything. Okay, so now that I realize that, what do I do next? What do I want to do next? And to be able to look at it and say, okay, these are the things I want to do. How can I do them? Because I don't remember who it was, if it was Stacy or Carrie said earlier today, there's no the word can't doesn't exist in this organization.
Yeah.
That's very true. And that's the way you have to look at it, whatever it is.
Well, and I was just about to ask you, what has Dare to Try done for you? And Carrie and Stacy are some of our coaches, so it's like they say, there's camp. But what have Dare to Try done for James?
Well, I mean, I've found an organization that's helped me to continue to move forward with doing triathlons. Earlier in this year, I was named to Dare to Try's development team.
Yep.
So as a result, I've gotten the ability to work more with coaches, to get access to other things that will help me to go further, including getting funding for a tandem bike.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
I'll be able to train more instead of having to go about an hour each way to have a tandem.
Just to have a bike,
use.
so you get your own bike, and then you
Right.
find that your coach out in Naperville can help you out. That's
Absolutely.
great. That's great.
Yeah,
to
I
hear.
mean, so just things along that lines. But I mean, more than that, just having introduced me to this community of athletes, as I said earlier, it makes it easier to be able to look at people who are in the same situation as you and say, okay, they're able to do that. Why can't I?
Right. That's a very good way to end this. It's so true that in this organization, Dare to Try, it works for me too. Right.
Yeah.
In my disability, there's other people doing it that I'm trying to catch up to and beat. Tom is in
Right.
my same category, just like you're with Amber.
Yeah.
So it's an awesome organization, and Carrie is the executive. But Stacy is our coach, so we like Stacy a lot. She helps us get faster, and thanks very much for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
it a lot.
you very much.
All right. All the best to you this season, man.
Thank you. You
All right.
too.